of the Trevors.
This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning from the Saratoga backstretch. Seth Merrill and Steve Bick. Are you all set over there?
Yeah, clip went flying.
You got to get those little clips. You got the giant clips.
Well, you got the little clips. They get increasingly larger. You know, you get the daily, then you get the weekend, then you get the cumulative. You fold in.
I go medium size. They work regardless.
Well, I got more to follow. I've got to follow. There were stakes at Thistledown yesterday. We have to worry about.
There were plenty of stakes as I went through the Equibase chart. There were a couple of tracks I was unfamiliar with as I went through the stakes results yesterday on Equibase. But that's always the case in the summertime. Lots of action. We'll hit on that certainly as the day goes forward. Our man Mick commented on your jacket. Maybe we'll get right into that. You in honor of Dominic yesterday at the racetrack. Third year they've done that? At least the second.
At least
year?
Third or fourth, maybe even at this point. It's unbelievable. It's hard to believe that Dominic Galusio is gone at all. But certainly the Lustgarten Foundation, which is the clearinghouse and the group that fights pancreatic cancer, and huge turnout, which was just predictable, and all the trainers come out to sign autographs for a suggested $10 donation. And as I wrote yesterday, Dominic was on everybody's mind and certainly forever in everybody's hearts. And he's missed on the racetrack and off of it by friends and family every day. A wonderful, fascinating, funny, terrific horseman, just a unique personality, and so we had to break out the Galuch splendidry today,
and autograph session and whatnot. So a nice event, and again, all for charity. Let's hit on some of the racing. First, I want to go to the racing yesterday. A handicapper's report earlier. I tossed out my apologies. It was my first whiff of the season. I had no winners on top. It was a tough day. I said it earlier. 5 out of 6 in the pick six got you $13,000. Pick six carryover today is $78,000. The pick five, they have on a chart listed the $2 payoff, but clearly it was a 50-cent ticket. They have a payoff listed at $819,000, but the pool was only $240. So clearly there was one 50-cent winner in there. And again, I'll give you the sequence. The $48 Asmussen first timer that kicked myself. I didn't at least back up with the $28 Dale horse, $44 Pledge horse. There's one every year. How's Pletcher get away at $44? But then Lake Placid $6, the Alabama $10 for a late, and we wound up the day with $15. But man, it was a tough day yesterday. But one of those days, all you needed was one or two. Excuse me, and it made your day.
Yesterday was very odd, and there's certainly handicapping methods that will land you on certain horses. Some were also just were fortunate or unusual. And you mentioned the Asmussen stallion. Fast Bullet had one season at stud, and that was for Paul's Mills. Then he was going to move to Windstar, and died of colic in December at the end of getting ready for the next season. So Fast Bullet, so far he's got 5 runners out on the racetrack. So you're dealing with a real unknown quantity, but anybody that remembers him, he was fast. I mean, they didn't call him Fast Bullet by accident, the Zayats, and you could have had a hint, I guess. The workout reports weren't all that glowing. When you deal with the Asmussen barn, you're usually looking for second timers as opposed to the firsters. So that was not an easy horse to find and an easy horse to use, especially since there was Super Sermon, Variant Perception, and Allured in here. And you mentioned to me you had them second, third, and fourth in order. I did too, and I was live with all of them and pick 4 and pick 5 for good money.
Yeah, I liked Allured, who I thought ran well.
This was a very tricky horse in terms of maidens. Earlier on the card, though, Honorable Treasure is notable, and the first 2 races of the day came off the grass. And here's another McPeak maiden 2-year-old coming off of a turf start, and now look for McPeak to continue with him on the dirt for now. 81 buyer for Honorable Treasure, who did have a glowing Mike Vesey, Mike Welsh DRF Clocker Report tab. I picked him on top when it came off, and I had actually, I think, was even had him on top on the grass based on the work. So keep an eye on Honorable Treasure, and the rest of it was unusual. For instance, you talk about the Dale Romans horse in that really good allowance going 1 1/8 miles. Well, the Canizzo really probably was best in there, hookup, and probably should have won. John Velasquez did some magic with that Pletcher horse. Yeah. That horse had no business winning. That horse got a miraculous trip, and about a dozen things had to happen for her to win, Chastise. So you do get those days, and you say to yourself, you look through. I ended up adding up between Del Mar and Saratoga. I had 8 seconds with top selections and horses that I keyed. It 'tis well. We're going to talk to Riley Mott later about the Alabama. And I picked It 'Tis Well, and did okay, but that's the kind of day it was.
Oh, you said you played her underneath and somebody's acted to kind of back up.
Better to win and then back-wheeled her.
It's a $155 exception.
Yeah, it was terrific. I mean, she was the right horse to bet anyway in the
and let's comment on that,
Alabama.
because we won't talk odds necessarily with Riley Mott, so we'll watch the race later and talk the actual race with him. But that Alabama, how many times do you see a Grade 1 race with 9 horses entered where the favorite is 4-1? There were a couple of horses at 4-1 and not one at 9-2. And typically, I'm sure the same thing happens to you. You walk through the crowd, hey, who do you like? Who do you like? And people ask me in the Alabama, and I like Salty, but I said I can make a case for like 6 others, and the betting public was right in the same boat. I mean, when the favorite is 4-1, it's clear that folks are kind of throwing darts to some extent.
The only horses personally that I did not cover in this group was Holy Helena and Mopetism, and everybody else I thought had a chance for something, whether as a winner or as an exotic player. And Holy Helena I was completely against. I mean, if there was going to be one of the choices, she was to me the one that was least likely to be competitive, and that played out. Unchained Melody's situation, she ends up okay, and haven't gotten the specifics, but a little bit of combination of maybe flipping a pallet, and I mean she stopped too abruptly for anything else, but in terms of soundness, fine. But that obviously is a big disappointment for Hidden Brook and for Brian Lynch coming into this. The Elate story, can't wait to talk to Riley, because he had Elate as a 2-year-old and then earlier this year, and this is a real case of patient Bill Mott training with Elate. They were kind of waiting for her to become what she is, and Mott made comments yesterday that he felt early on in the spring and late winter that this was going to be an Alabama type of a horse. And certainly from the pedigree standpoint and everything that he was seeing from her, she was going to take her time to put it all together, physically and mentally. And so you see that now in the result. Third Alabama win for Bill Mott. The Hollendorfer filly, to me, is very funny. Here is a Tommytown Thoroughbreds filly that has run her best races away from California.
Yeah, every time.
She's much better away from the West Coast than she is on it. It's very strange. But both of the fillies that came out of the Delaware Oaks, both ran very well. Actress was plugging away. She ends up fourth. The Cassie Barn, the resurgent Cassie Barn. Lock Cornell didn't run particularly well in the Lake Placid, but stablemate Dream Dancing in an unbelievably thrilling Del Mar Oaks. If you missed the Oaks last night, and we're going to talk momentarily as well about what transpired in the Pacific Classic, but Dream Dancing for Jack Oxley, very nice performance, shipping out west, winning the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks.
And they won up at Woodbine with Conquest Panthera as well, so they had a nice day out of town. So.
Well, and speaking of Woodbine, today, if you haven't noticed, the Sky Classic, which is always a pretty good group, Grade 2, and then the third leg of the Canadian Triple Crown, the Breeders' Stakes, the mile-and-a-half race on the grass. And, of course, the distances are the same in the Canadian Triple Crown, mile and a quarter, mile and 3/16, and a mile and a half. But it's so much fun because synthetic in the Queen's Plate, dirt in the Prince of Wales, turf in the Breeders, and a very nice field. Roger Atfield and Cassie particularly prominent. Atfield, I think, is looking for his 10th Breeders' Stakes win.
Not bad. I just wanted, speaking of foreign racing, I wanted to toss out there, Winx down in Australia gets her. I didn't. I should have called for it, but I didn't. I didn't do that. But Winx, 18th consecutive triumph. One of those. I'm sure it floats under the radar for a lot of people, particularly during Saratoga and Del Mar. But they said they're going to try to pull it up in the control room. It was the Warwick Stakes yesterday at Royal Randwick. She gets it done at 7 furlongs and just got it done. But
she got left.
Straight.
She got left. And in fact, this is actually a terrific aside and segue as well for the Arrowgate situation. She gets left, Winx, and she's going to circle the field and get up. This is, in some ways, of course, 7 furlongs, very different from a mile and a quarter. Watch her there wide. And what's important about it is the Arrowgate runner-up performance yesterday in the Pacific Classic. He, of course, at Dubai, left at the gate and then circles the field. And you do have to wonder, what it takes out of the horse.
Wow.
And we're going to, in fact, you want to save it for Sean? He might have some good insight. I think we'll do that. Sean Clancy is going to join us next. We got a ton of things to discuss with Sean as we get to the real crux of the meat between Alabama yesterday and Travers coming up this week, as well as the New York Turf Riders handicap, the other Grade 1 over the jumps. So lots to talk about with Sean, and maybe we'll get his input as well when it comes
Before
to
we move on, I just do want to mention Winx, because this is a throwback to one of my favorite horses all time, Forgo. This year, the goal this year is the Cox Plate again, and this year would be her third straight Cox Plate.
Will she win 5 straight?
At a mile and a quarter.
Right.
So you go 7 furlongs, a mile and a quarter. As I say, that's kind of a throwback. All right, should we take a break and then bring Sean on? We can hit some of the Del Mar and some of the other stuff.
Did we do anything with Lake Placid? We'll save it. We can save it for Sean. That's fine too.
Right.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, why not do a little? Yeah, because I'm anxious for Sean's, from a horsemanship standpoint, get some of his insights. And of course, Arrowgate yesterday. It's very interesting. I mean, he runs into a stablemate that is obviously good right now, and.
Why don't we toss that out there? Why don't we toss out the replay and hit on that one before we go to a break and just talk a little bit about, because obviously the question mark is, and number 2 will be Collected, number 8 will be Arrowgate, number 3 Accelerate. And Arrogate, again, he's the number 8. I think he might be a toast here again, and makes a nice little comeback in the stretch to lose by a chart margin only half a length. And Bob Baffert's quoted, or there was comments, the post-race, it was a little muted celebration, as it were, as Baffert said something to the effect of, it's like my younger son beating my older son.
And this is only the stretch run, so you're really not seeing the full effect. The inside, first of all, collected as good as he is right now, off that precisionist win. The inside was the place to be, and Mike Smith was kind of forced to go wide in both turns. And here's the thing with Arrogate. If you are assuming and you're making the basis of your discussion that he is supposed to be so superior that losing ground on both turns in terms of the trackist, 51 feet, which is significant. And he also had Accelerate to deal with, who kind of had to get around, and then Accelerate came out at him again. If you're talking, just good stakes horses, you can have that discussion. He is supposed to be, based on that string of 4 performances, he is supposed to be able to overcome that. The fact right now is you have to decide, and based on Baffert's input and reaction, and Baffert said, we're going to, we'll be ready for the Breeders' Cup Classic, and he's powering through. He's not letting the racetrack, maybe he isn't all that comfortable on this track. Baffert's not using that as any kind of an excuse. What he did say is he's sorry now that he ran him in the San Diego and that he didn't train him up to the Pacific Classic, the kinds of things he did with American Pharoah and with Arrogate last year. So it clearly, right now, this is not the same brilliant Arrogate that we saw through that 4-race scheme. And whether you talk about a cumulative effect of running 120 type buyer performances, that could be part of it. Plus, he's getting mature, he's getting bigger physically, he's a heavier horse than he was last year. So there's lots of things that contribute to him being a little bit more of a grindy, you could see in the late stages, he finally really started to stretch out and reach and get to collected late. So it's a lot of moving parts. And instead of people saying, "Oh, well, see, he's not the greatest of all time," that's like that needed to be discussed. These are horses, and they have form cycles and ebbs and flows, and you take it. As the races come. Now we'll look forward to what could be a titanically.
It does add much more into
oh my
the
God.
Breeders' Cup Class.
You're going to have a Breeders' Cup Classic with him, collected, gun runner.
Shaman Ghost, I would assume.
Well, Shaman Ghost is hurt,
okay.
having surgery.
Yeah,
but
right.
Rally Cry, let's see what Rally Cry does coming out of his most recent with a 110. But you've got a really nice mix now. If Arrogate has come back to earth and is something of a mortal Grade 1 winner right now, but no one's going to deny. I mean, I saw some of the Twitter is. I mean, it is a cesspool of inanity like you've never seen. Oh, they should stop running him. They're devaluing his stud career. What? What are you talking about? Oh, they should just retire him. What's the point? Really? You got Prince Abdullah is a bit of a sportsman. Maybe people haven't noticed. It's amazing. Yeah. People saying, oh, they're going to retire him after he didn't perform in the San Diego. Then he comes back to a good race, maybe not his A race, but he comes back to a very good, solid Grade 1 performance. Well, now they should retire. It's like, what do you want? Do you want them to run or do you want them to retire? I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, that's been going on for the internet and has now transferred over to Twitter, certainly. But yeah, you're on it there. That's why. Although I stay tuned on Twitter. I said at the beginning of the meet I may jump on, but we'll see. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back,
I hope you'll be pugnacious.
Sean Clancy will join us coming up this week. The New York Turf Riders on the jump side, but we'll talk about that and much, much more right after this. A little bit later, Riley Mott as well had a late for his dad in the Alabama yesterday. All that coming up. Stay with us.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
Nighttime thoroughbred racing is back at Capital OTB. Now through Labor Day, Capital OTB will be accepting wagers on nighttime thoroughbred racing from across the country, featuring evening racing from Del Mar and Woodbine, and now it's even easier to be part of the action. Simply log on to CapitalOTBBet.com on all your digital devices, or use our newly designed mobile app. So even when the sun goes down, thoroughbred racing continues at CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. CapitalOTB.com offers live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, and a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform. And best of all, you get track prices. Going on now, it's Bet 50, Get 50. Simply open a Capital Bets account, bet $50, and get $50 cash back. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Now it's a global series. The best racers from all over the world, the best trainers, the best jockeys.
You can get a free entry into the Breeders' Cup, and everybody wants to run in a Breeders' Cup race.
You get your travel expenses paid for the Breeders' Cup. Automatic berth takes a lot of pressure off.
If we're considering two different races and one was a win and you're in and one was a not, that would be the tiebreaker.
It's probably the best thing that's happened to racing in the last 10 years.
Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
With more than 60 Easy Bet and branch locations throughout the region, you're just a short drive from all the top tracks across the country and around the world. For a complete list of all Easy Bet and branch locations, visit CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB. We're closer than you think.
Welcome back to Loose on the Lead on this Sunday morning. Happy to be joined now by our friend Sean Clancy from the Saratoga Special. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. Good morning.
Let's start out. I was in the winner's circle last night after the Alabama. I took a shot. Steve took a shot. I've got a shot of you.
My shot's much
standing.
better.
I kind of like mine.
Let's let the public decide. We can vote on Twitter.
Yeah, why not? Everybody else on Twitter.
They're differently themed, but there's you, and you've got the chat with Jose and Riley Mott.
Look how it's framed with the
nice.
That's
good. Yeah, looks Barbara Livingston now. Actually. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's you chatting. You're looking at the replay.
Shadows is bad. The lighting's terrible.
Well, I couldn't do anything about the lighting, but people get the.
Gives a good feel.
Yeah, and you're there at the.
Well, this is apples and oranges. One was going for the sunset, kind of the mood. One was Ansel Adams. One was Barbara Livingston.
I like that. I like that. But I got
look at Clancy with that laconic he's got that lanky.
He's working.
Has Pep done a drawing of you?
Yes, he did actually. He had me all skinny when I was riding. I was skinny and my face jutted out. It was like this. And I looked down. I said, I don't look like that. I mean, God, I don't look like that. And about 5 people standing around with.
I said, yeah, you do.
You do. I said, I'm not that grumpy. I said, yeah, you are.
That's pretty good to have a pep drawing. Do you have it framed someplace?
No, I don't even know where it is.
That would be pretty good to have a pep
He should do a new one. He should do a Saratoga Special version with you as a newsie.
Yeah,
But then you're sitting there with Jose. Were you getting good info?
Yeah, it was great. I actually asked him about it late when she broke her maiden by 12, and I said, "What'd you think?" He said, "I think I hit the jackpot." I love that.
And that is a large part of what you guys do. You and your brother Joe and all the interns you have as well. But certainly
Tom Law. Wait a minute.
Tom Law,
local guy.
You're
Come
absolutely
on,
right. I got
Don't call him an intern.
Throw Tom in as well. Yeah, no, Tom's one of the guys.
He's too tall to be an intern.
But a lot of times after the stakes races, you guys are out there in the winner's circle, and you kind of wait for the media to part, and then you go in, and it seems like the game plan is to get kind of the extra edge to the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a real luxury because we own the paper ourselves, so we don't have a publisher, editor, and a bunch of bosses breathing down our neck to get the copy as fast as we can to turn it around. I mean, we're writing that Joe wrote the Alabama feature last night. I wrote a column on Bill Mott. We're writing till I mean, it was 11 o'clock when I finished, and I walked out of the office. It was about 1:30 in the morning, which is madness. But it's a great way to write newspapers because you don't have to, you don't have pressure. Like yesterday, I didn't have a column. I didn't even know what I was going to write. Joe got some great stuff on Alabama. The paper, the layout, the design was kind of caught up. He's like, I'll write the feature, you write a column, which was great. We made that decision at 9 o'clock at night, which is fun. I mean, so we have a kind of, we have a bit of a luxury, so we can kind of slow down and take our time with people. I mean, I walked up with Bill Mott after the race, and he left his binoculars up in his box. We walked up there. We sat down in his box. The last race was running. He didn't have a horse in the race. We chatted. We talked for about 15 minutes. Then he said to me, he said, well, I'm going to try to beat the traffic if we're finished. And I'm like, if we're finished? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. Which is brilliant. So we walked down, and he gave me great stuff. It was fun.
Yeah, and as I say, see you guys doing that every day. And again, we'll highly recommend pick up a copy of the Saratoga Special around the track, around town, or online. This is horse racing.
Yes, exactly.
And you can get the PDF version of the paper.
Yeah, you can read it right online. A lot of people read it at night. I mean, sometimes we get it done early enough so people read it at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Or if you're coming in staggering home from the bar, you can read it then. And that's when we do our best work. People read my stuff at about 2 o'clock in the morning drunk. They say, man, that was brilliant what you wrote. That's good.
Why don't we hit on, because we didn't show it in the opening segment, why don't we get some of your thoughts maybe on the Lake Placid from yesterday. It was Proctor's Ledge getting it done. I like La Coronel. Proctor's Ledge is going to be the number 4 horse in here. Comes out of essentially the win in the prep race for this earlier in the meet. Uni was the favorite at 9-5 for Chad Brown. Party Boat runs 3rd. La Coronel, who I liked and used, runs 4th in here, and I just thought a kind of a dull effort from La Coronel, but Proctor's Ledge clearly now a player in this subdivision of the 3-year-old fillies on the turf.
Yeah, she's just getting good. I mean, I think if you saw her in the paddock, she was the paddock pick for sure. She's just getting stronger, bigger, better. I thought some of the other fillies looked a little washed out or a little bit sounded stressed out. She just looked great. And, I think Brendan Walsh done a good job with this filly. He's kind of brought her along and gradually got to be very good. She's a player of any man.
This has really been a fun project, and for Miss Mosley, it's nice for her to get a horse like this, and the first stake winner for Brendan Walsh with the Mosleys. She's a go sapper out of an Arch mare, and she had plenty of excuses, I mean legitimate excuses, or at least reasons for starting the year. It was kind of with a series of stutter steps. And then things started to fall into place, and these back-to-back wins in the Lake George and the Lake Placid really signal, I think, a big shot. I mean, I don't know if she's going to be ready. We do have a little bit of a shorter filly and mare turf at Del Mar than usual, so maybe she can go ahead and try. But she is a serious horse, and you could see yesterday she wanted to run on the backstretch and then finally switched off at a certain point for Castellano and relaxed about midway on the backstretch. When she got straightened up, when she squared up at the top of the stretch, I mean, she was on those leaders in 3 jumps. Right. She's got a big explosive kick. She's tactical, which is something she wasn't early as a 2-year-old. She is only going to get better and going to be a major, major filly and mare star on the grass going forward.
No, for sure. I mean, I think that's when you watch these races day in, day out, that's where Javier Castellano is so good. I mean, she has that kick because he doesn't take anything away from her. He gets her covered up, sits there. Even she gets a little strong. He doesn't get up in her mouth. Just gives her a little. She listens, and then she can close like that. I mean, the turf races, it's always amazing when you watch. So, wow, she came with such a kick. She came with such a kick because the first turn down the backside and all those moves that a jockey makes, those subtle moves that create the ability to close like that.
And we showed it earlier. What were your thoughts in the Alabama? A late gets it done over it as well. Salty, I liked, and I thought made a good late run. Wasn't going to catch the winner, but made a nice late run in there. But a late finally lives up to the promise we saw in the career debut. They got to put some confidence into that one earlier this year, but she looked good yesterday. Certainly in a 3-year-old filly division that Abel Tasman certainly sits at the top at now, but she's now throwing her hat in the ring. Going to have to do something later in the year to catch Abel Tasman, but looked good yesterday.
Yeah, I mean that was Bill Mott, mile and a quarter, a filly that's just gradually getting there. I talked a long time about it with him yesterday, and just that's him. That's what he does best. He just stays the course, doesn't press. I was talking to him about they were thinking about the Oaks, thinking about other races this spring. everything, and he said she just wasn't there, and there's nothing. He said nothing I could do to get her there. She just wasn't there, and now she's there. And the mile and a quarter, it's so different when you watch that. It just separates them. It's the great classic distance. It just separates the few that can do it. I mean, you watch like a Royal Delta late yesterday. It just makes such a difference. A lot of them get to the eighth pole, and then it's a matter of just carrying on. I mean, she's got the stamina, she's got pedigree, she's trained the right way, she's just done everything right. And you watch, I mean, the ones behind, I mean, it's amazing. It's as well. She was getting laboring here, but still stayed on to be second. Really, the only ones running on is Elate. She's staying on, but she's far and away the best in that group. Salty was making a little run, I guess, at the end, but
too late for me.
Yeah, exactly. That happens.
Yeah.
Not a lot of discussion here post-race about New Money Honey, who did attend the pace and then kind of backed up. In terms of the attempt to make the grass to dirt transition, I mean, certainly understand this is a unique opportunity to make her a Grade 1 dirt winner, and so you don't begrudge the try at all, and I assume just goes back to turf. But she looked on the first half of the race like she was going to be a part of it.
Yeah, I thought she ran okay. I mean, she certainly, she was a little bit close. I think a lot of those fillies that were sitting close they were just doing a little too much. Holy Alina was up there, and New Money Honey was up there, and be interesting to see if they'll try it again. I mean, I guess they'll probably go back to the turf, but she didn't run badly in there. It really was just Elate was a standout. I mean, she really separated.
Before we talk about what's coming up this week, including Travers and the Turf Riders Cup, your Arrogate collected postscript to the Pacific Classic.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to. He just doesn't look like the same horse as he was before in this races. I mean, and actually, I didn't think he was going to get a piece of it yesterday in mid-race. I mean, he just looks like he's laboring. I don't know if that's just surface or where he is. I mean, I'd love to see watch the horse train and just see how he's acting, what he looks like. I can't believe it's just surface, but I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. And the question I ask is, does that surface change, in the fall? I mean, being that close to the beach, I know nothing about track surfaces, but come fall, does it tighten up? I mean, I think there's a good chance the Del Mar surface would be very different from August to November.
Agreed.
Maybe it would be.
Well, certainly when they had the pro ride and the synthetic surface, the issue was in the mornings, horses were working over it when it was cool, and then when the sun started to hit it in the afternoons, it got much heavier and stickier. The people that are saying, well, this is the same Sepulveda sand that Dennis Moore installed at Santa Anita. That's swell, except that Santa Anita is in the foothills of the mountains, and this is oceanside. The tides affect it. The winds, the sun, everything else affects that surface. So just saying, well, he should run just as well there as he does at Santa Anita because it's the same composition. Right. The composition changes with the temperature, with the sun, with the wind, with the tides. So that topic isn't helping. I mean, by that stretch, I mean, a horse like Accelerate, who was 3 for 3 at Del Mar, well, how come he didn't win? Right, I mean, you can't use the surface issue. He's obviously gotten heavier and bigger, and there's also, I think, a case to be made that those races, that explosive Travers, the serious hard try with California Chrome, then the dominance and the 121 buyer at Gulfstream, and then the circle the field jaw dropper at Meydan. These things take a cumulative effect. When a horse is running to that degree, that strongly, it adds up.
Right. Oh, it's a good question. I mean, that, you know, I think with the Pegasus and the Dubai World Cup, obviously, you change a horse's program quite a bit. I mean, you used to get the Breeders' Cup Classic and you get a big break. Now they don't get that break. Does he kind of have the hangover from those races all winter long? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, again, I'd love to see the horse train. I think you get a sense of how he's doing and what he looks like. But you know, the other question is, if the Breeders' Cup wasn't at Del Mar, would he have run these 2 races out there? I mean, would he have run yesterday? If you didn't have the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, would you need to try to see that again? You know, whether he can handle it or not. He definitely handled it better. I mean, he definitely ran better. And Baffert has said, I mean, Baffert really he's blamed himself for the first race. I mean, he said he changed up his training and he takes, and he doesn't, you know, he doesn't usually say stuff like that. So I think he definitely feels like he messed up the training, you know, leading up to the first race. And you know, maybe he's rounding back into form now. I don't know. I mean, he certainly doesn't look like the same arrogant that we're used to. But I'd love to see the horse come back. I mean, I kind of like him now. I kind of like him more now after, you know, with some adversity. You know what I mean? And just see what he's made of.
Well, that's a great storyline for the Breeders'
you know?
Cup Classic now.
Exactly.
I mean, it makes it a much more intriguing race.
Well, you just hope that everybody that now seems to be lining up in this direction, that everybody gets there, whether it's, you know, Gunrunner, Collected, and him. When you have 3 headliners, it's nice when last year we had Cal Chrome and him. This year it looks like you got 3, and there's a couple of fringe players that may press their way in. You know, and for those that are saying, well, Baffert can keep training him on Del Mar, no, he can't. They close, and when the meet's over, everybody goes back to Santa Anita or to San Luis Rey Downs or wherever they train, Los Al, and then they'll come back for the Del Mar Bing Crosby meet and the Breeders' Cup. But he cannot stay there and train all September and October. That's not an option. So they'll go back to Santa Anita, and as Baffert said, he said, it's funny, Collected probably will run in the Awesome again, and he said he'll give him one more, but he said now he'll do what he's done the last couple of years with Arrogate and with American Pharaoh as he tries to win an unbelievable, think about that for a second. He's going to have Collected and Arrogate in the Breeders' Cup Classic, going for his 3rd in a row as a trainer.
Take that chance. Right?
Rich get richer. Let's just shift gears a little bit, go to the jump side of things, because the New York Turf Raiders comes up this week, the highlight of the jump meet. And, of course, you and your brother had Steeplechase Times for many years. Now you kind of rolled that into some of your special coverage, or this is horse racing coverage, so we'll get some ideas there. Before we do that, you were a jump jockey. As I was driving in this morning, I was thinking about this. You were a jump jockey for many years. When you're a jump jockey and you wind up in the Saratoga Jocks Room, is it like a subculture? Do they put you guys off to the side? You're all riders.
Yeah, we're all riders. I mean, I came up and Angel Cordero was in the room when I started. He had his Latin music playing, and no, we made great friends with those guys. I mean, you know, Johnny and Mig, and all the way back to Eddie Maple and guys like that. Pat Day. I used to ask him a lot of advice. I mean, I asked Pat Day. I said, Pat, when a horse is kind of coming out of the bridle and then going, my finish just falls apart. I don't know what to do. What should I do? I mean, I can't. I lose my rhythm. I said, son, wait for another day. I'm like, that's all you got for me? I said, come on, I need more than that.
That's the best advice you got?
Yeah. No, they were great. It's actually funny. We were the first guys. We were wearing flak jackets. The jump jockeys were wearing flak jackets. And I came up here in '88. And we were wearing flak jackets, and the flat riders were looking at us like, look at this, man of steel, ha ha, and they were kind of laughing at us. And, you know, obviously a couple of years later, it became mandatory and galloping in them and everything else. So, no, a jockey's a jockey.
And how many flat races did you ride? I'm assuming if it wasn't what we normally think of as a flat race, every year it seems like there are races for jump horses that are on the flat. So how many?
Yeah, a few of those. Not very often.
Was it a different animal for you? If you went around with no jumps?
No, it was kind of a relief, actually.
Yeah, understandably, I suppose. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Turf Raiders coming up. And while we do that, I pulled up the Smithwick from earlier in the meet. The winner here is going to be Swansea Mile at a long price, 28-1. Portrait, the number 5 horse, winds up 4th in here. That's the winner of the Turf Raiders last year. This one goes at 2 1/16 miles. The Turf Raiders, 2 3/8, so that's a little bit of a different animal, certainly. But give us some of your thoughts on what we can expect maybe coming up a little bit later this week in the Turf Raiders.
Well, this race was tricky because of the ground. It rained a lot. It was pretty soft, so I think it was kind of you know, it was an upset in the race. It'll be interesting to see what happens when these horses line up on firm turf. I like Modem was second in there. I think he's probably set up now for a big effort. It's been a month since that race. He ran pretty well there. Got kind of got a little bit of racing experience in America. He's good. It'd be fun to see Mr. Hot Stuff come back, and there's a slew of them. I think there's 12. There's like 12 or 13 nominations. It's a great race.
You mentioned Mr. Hot Stuff. And quickly in passing, talk about your connection to Mr. Hot Stuff.
So I bought him off the flat, bought him from Owen Hardy and Windstar. He was kind of just stuck in that two other than category, and I sent him an email. I said, I know this sounds outlandish, but if you ever want to sell Mr. Hot Stuff, let me know. And sure enough, they did, and he's been a Grade 1 winner over jumps, and just a fabulous horse.
What are you looking for when you look and say, oh, this one would make a good jump horse?
Mr. Hot Stuff. I mean, he is the most. He's got form. He's got ability. He's a beautiful horse. He's by Tiz now. He's a full brother to Colonel John, so he's got stamina. He's an absolute stunning horse. Jack Fisher actually, when I called Jack about buying him. He said, I better go to California to see him. I said, Jack, I never say this, but believe me, you don't have to see him. Don't worry about it. I said, save the airfare. He said, no, I better go. And he called me from out there. He said, yeah, you're right. I could have saved the airfare. He's just, I mean, he's an absolute oil painting when you see him. He's just a gorgeous horse. Great neck, great shoulder. The perfect horse.
Talked a little bit. We had you on the other day. You had a nice win down at Laurel what week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and you wrote a great column. And I recommend people to pull up the archive at thisishorseracing.com because it's kind of fun to get the owner's perspective. River D, right?
Yes, exactly. River D State, a horse named Motivational. I tried him over jumps. I thought he was a slam dunk jumper and didn't actually run very. Actually ran horribly. And we switched him back over on the flat, 1 or 2 other than at Laurel, and. Now we're thinking maybe the Laurel Turf Cup or maybe even Kentucky Downs if we're really brave. I don't know. I figure he got an advantage, right? He's run over jumps at the hunt meets, and he trains in a field. Maybe you have an advantage at a place like Kentucky Downs.
That'll be fun. All right, we'll be watching.
I could use 600,000.
Yeah.
Couple of notes too on Wednesday, even before the Turf Riders Thursday, the Walsh novice opens the card, and there's an obvious jump connection as well because they're going to run the John's Call, and in the same tradition that her father had with the runnings of the John's Call, Elizabeth Voss represented with 2 horses as she tries to win. I think both Maribel or one Maribel and
I'm not sure. Renown and. I forget the other horse's name, but yeah, she's got a chance. Both of them. Actually.
And because Tom would always try to have a horse in the John's Call, and he did it a couple of times, I think, over the years. I remember when John's Call would come in parade.
He's a great horse.
Too funny. But what about the Walsh on Wednesday? You look at that yet?
I skimmed it. I like a horse named New Member, who actually I sold him to Jack Fisher and Armada Stable. We had a rough trip here the other day. I think he'll run a little bit better if he gets a better trip.
You should mention, too, the Mitchell kid has had a tremendous meet here without much notice.
No, he's done very well. Mikey Mitchell, he was born in England. He wasn't getting that much opportunity in England. He traveled to Australia, New Zealand, and he says he's on his world tour heading back home. So he's stopped in America. He's got a 5-year visa. He's a good rider. He does well.
Yeah, he's had a tremendous meet. How would you have liked the new configuration, which abandons the final jump? How would you have fared with that?
I don't know. I have a really hard time understanding the races. It's a really completely different race now. So I kind of struggle with how the races are run. I mean, back when I was riding, there were three hurdles down the back, and obviously you had a last fence and a stretch. Very different way of riding. I think I actually like the more jumping better. I mean, I think it's really more what the sport's about. You can kind of, when there's more jumps, your horse actually you get a little bit of a breather at times. You kind of you can pick your spots a little. I thought it had a better flow of a race. Now I don't know. I mean, I guess it would depend on the horse. I mean, some horses you'd be better off. I mean, I hit the deck a couple times in the last fence, so those days I wish there wasn't one, but. I don't know. It's very strange watching it. I can't quite get my head around it. It's a completely different type of race than what I was used to.
Agreed. I've struggled. I mean, this is not personally in terms of my play, and it has changed the the way, and I haven't adjusted to the approach to figure out necessarily. It used to be that one thing that seems completely at a disadvantage are the front runners. I can't. There hasn't been a horse. I don't think there's been a jumper gone wire to wire.
I've noticed stalking is probably.
No, you want to be covered up, and you just can't. I think now they tend to get in a bigger hurry. I mean, as a jump jockey, you kind of really always had to fight moving too soon, and now it seems like everybody gets moving soon. They go under the wire with a circuit to go, and it's like they just step on the gas.
Absolutely.
And a good front runner over jumps. I mean, a good one is able to jump quicker and make up time at his jumps.
Exactly.
And the other ones are, the other ones, if they're in a pack, they're looking and losing a little ground behind the front runner. I mean, a good front runner over jumps a good one was good because he was such a quick jumper. I mean, he'd stand off and quick and just make up ground.
Yep.
And the other horses get discouraged chasing that horse. I mean, a good front runner, you can really just step inside the wings and gun one, and those horses behind you they struggle. So, without the jumps, there's like nowhere to hide. You're kind of just a sitting duck. And the other part of that is everybody gets right behind you. They run up on you. So what happens to a front runner now without the jumps is the guy stalking. He goes after you earlier. And he starts attacking it. Even going under the wire, he comes to you down the back. He comes to you, so you don't get any breather. Where you used to be able to, you just get a little bit. You could get farther, without any pressure. And now they're just on you from the start.
Yeah, it's made a big difference, no doubt.
All right, Sean, we'll let you go because I was going to say we know you're very busy with the newspaper, but is there a Monday paper this week?
No Monday. I'm going to go. I'm actually going to have breakfast and take a nap. Can you imagine that?
Well, good luck with that.
Exactly.
And
we should also. We didn't get a chance. If you haven't seen Sean's piece. The column that he writes at the back page. The piece the other day, was that Sunday? Or Monday? Wednesday.
Thursday.
Whatever.
Thursday
midweek.
Thursday.
I'll find the link to it. Was it your father who linked to it? Your uncle, or who was it?
My nephew, Jack.
Nephew. Okay. Sean wrote a piece about circumstances in Charlottesville last weekend that is a must-read, and all it does is further confirm that an award-winning writer could be writing about anything, and an important read, not just a casual read, as most of them are, mirthful and fun. When you seem to be at your best with serious topics, by the way.
Thank you. No, I just felt it just needed to be said. I mean, we're up here in Saratoga, and I try to write about what's on my mind or what happens in a day, and I just think the tragedy in Charlottesville is just such a tragedy for our country and the people involved, and I just felt like I had to write about it.
Well done.
Bring it up.
And again, the archives are available on thisishorseracing.com, and keep up with the newspaper as well if you can't pick it up on Track and Like It All, Price Choppers and whatnot as well. Yeah. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Riley Mott will join us, assistant to his dad. They had the winner yesterday, the Alabama late. We'll talk about that and more. Stay tuned.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
As an owner, I love the Breeders' Cup Win in Your In series.
To win one of these challenge series is a way that we kind of map out our schedule throughout the year with our horses.
If you win one of the challenge races, you have a very good horse.
The King George, which is our Win in Your In race, provides the top middle distance horsing in Europe. We saw Highland Reel running both races.
We know when we show up at the Breeders' Cup, we've got the world to beat, not just everybody in the United States. Breeders' Cup Challenge, win, and you're in.
Come on!
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Conquistador Cielo puts ahead in front. Alama's Ruler on the outside is second. And Runaway Groom from Canada moves up. Runaway Groom alongside the inner two. Those three to the wire. Runaway Groom, Alama's Ruler, Conquistador Cielo, Runaway Groom in front.
We're back on Loose on the Lead on this absolutely glorious Sunday morning. It was a glorious Saturday afternoon and evening for the Bill Mott barn as well as for Adele Dilschneider. The team at Claiborne, as Elate fulfills a lot of expectations with the Grade 1 Alabama win in dominant fashion. And Riley Mott joins us, who has had a lot to do with her. And Riley, congratulations to you and Dad and the whole team.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
No, we thought this would be a perfect opportunity for those that want to see what's coming down the line. There's there are a lot of father and son jockey teams, and there's certainly over the years been any number of great father-son trainer tandems, and not that you're going out on your own anytime soon, but you've really become I would have to guess an invaluable portion of the equation as the horses get spread around.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough to be around the horses, whether it be Keeneland, Payson Park here in Saratoga, and I'm just happy to have a little part in the whole operation.
Break out how that works, because when it comes to certainly in the winter when some horses head to Florida and others in other directions, rotating in and out. Talk about the divisions and how the responsibilities are spread out.
I mean, logistically it gets a little bit difficult at times. In the winter months we have the majority of our horses down at Payson, and that consolidates things a little bit for us, which is nice, and we also keep a string at Gulfstream Park, as well as about a dozen or 20 horses up in New York for Aqueduct. But yeah, I mean, it's the gypsy lifestyle, as everyone in this business knows, and you get used to it. It's a lifestyle, and if you don't love it, you're not going to be in it for very long.
Did you know, I don't think I've ever asked you this, did you know early on that you were going to head in this direction?
Pretty much. I mean, when I was younger, I wanted to be in the NHL, so that didn't quite work out for me. But when I was about 10 or 11, I really gained a passion for the horses and everything that goes on at the racetrack. So from about that age, I knew what I wanted to do, and ever since then, this is what I've done.
Did you play hockey in school?
I did. I enjoyed it up until I graduated high school, and I wasn't quite good enough to go on with it. But I found a love for the horses, so it all works out.
Worked out yesterday. We can watch. I don't know if we're going to watch start to finish, or we just maybe have the stretch run again. Talk about Elate from your perspective in terms of the development, because this has been the key discussion in terms of her knowing that the talent was there, but having to wait for all of the pieces to come together, and talk from the 2-year-old arrival, and you were with her as a 2-year-old, and how
and again,
this
she's the
happens.
number 7 horse in here.
Well, I mean, we received her in about June of last year as a 2-year-old in Saratoga, and I mean, from the day we pulled her off the van, we knew she looked like she was apart from the others. I mean, physically, mentally, she just had a lot of range, scope to her that some of the younger horses might not have. And I mean, from a mental standpoint, she just took everything too well, not phased by much. So early on, before we even reached her, we kind of could tell, she had some of the intangibles. And then we started going on her a little more. She just kind of went from what we thought. We had to stop on her at one point. She was season chance, which is the only thing for an 2-year-old. We didn't start until and it kind of got you in the debut. She just realized that we think on street, she wanted to just bring us we didn't have the oaks, and we were going to run. It took her a little while to kind of take a long time before we she's like, that's like fun. Racing so time is not really the horse down very journal. Basically, one of the other kind of
they may shift spots, but you get to that point. Same thing is true here. And when she got shuffled back, there was some It was like, where's she going? And then, of course, the situation with Unbridled Melody dropping through the and it does seem that the 2 turns is to her liking much more than the 1 turn.
Right. I mean, there's no doubt about that. It makes a difference no matter what the distance is. The fact that it's a 1 turn as opposed to 2 turns, it's a factor, and you really don't know until you run them. But that's the distance of the race at Belmont, and if that's what we have to run, that's what we'll do.
Absolutely. And it's funny because of the situation with Del Mar this year. If the Breeders' Cup was at Santa Anita, you could even consider going out early and run in the Zenyatta and go the same distance configuration as the distaff. Mm-hmm. But you know what? The stretch out off the 1 turn may also be a positive. You don't know. I mean, until it does seem. The one thing that seems apparent now is that trip down to Delaware, which looked like a complete cupcake scenario, whether it was a confidence builder or whatever, it does turn out that was a very good gambit. And then you even get complimented because Teresa Z turns around and wins the Monmouth Oaks. Mm-hmm. So it does turn out that even though she only beat 3 down at Delaware that day, she beat a nice horse. Bodacious is a nice horse as well. So that was what looked like they're just trying to get her a stake win. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, we want to get black type for the Hancocks and Miss Dilschneider. Their breeding dates back generations, and whenever you can get black type on their fillies and mares, that's a positive. And not only were we trying to do that, but like you said, it was more or less a confidence builder. We had run her in a few tough spots, and it looked like the right one for her at the time. And we're big believers in confidence factors. So it worked out that day, and then it looked like she turned the corner in her last 2 races.
Well, speaking of confidence, there's got to be some pretty high confidence coming out of the Jim Dandy and heading towards Saturday's opportunity in the Travers. And there's been some trainers that have won the Alabama and the Travers. One of the ones I think of all the time is Carl Nafsker, who did it, and talk about the opportunity with Good Samaritan on Saturday.
It would be unbelievable. The Travers has always been on the top of our list to win. We call Saratoga our home, and to win the Travers would be pretty special for the family and the team. As far as our confidence level goes, we're confident in the fact that our horse is doing really well. We're well aware that there's some new shooters coming from the Haskell, and the Derby and Preakness winner, they're going to be second start off the bench. So everyone has a reason to improve off the Jim Dandy or the Haskell. So we're just hoping we bring ours in top condition and can run back to his Jim Dandy.
Well, having, much like a late, having a win like that over the racetrack that has been a difficult surface for some horses. Some horses have not taken to the new cushion at Saratoga, and really Good Samaritan comes in a similar fashion, the way a late came in to yesterday.
Yeah, it never hurts to have a race over the track, and when you can win over the track, that's even more so positive. As we know, there's a few other ones that have a race over the track, but the way he did it the other day with his ears pricked, it gives you confidence going into the next one, for sure.
And kind of alluded to it, but talk about that a little bit with Saratoga. And as you say, you travel around a lot with the horses. I know you guys were up, we covered Woodbine Mile last fall, and you were up there for that as well. So you hit a lot of big venues around the country and North America. Talk a little bit about Saratoga and what that means to race here and win here.
It is so special, regardless of the level of company that your horse wins at. I mean, everyone wants to come here. I'm at the belief it's the premier racetrack and meet in the country, if not the world. And just the quality of horse and horsemen who are here. Just to win for yourself and for your owners, it's really something special. And for us, it's a little bit of an added bonus that we're from here. So you cherish every win you get here, no matter what.
So you guys really do consider Saratoga your home?
We do. We've, growing up, we were back and forth from Belmont in Florida, but the family built a home here, and we call home Saratoga, if you can call anywhere home.
And you talk about how tough it is to win up here, but on the morning of your dad's birthday, is there a little extra juice in the barn? Because what is that, like 18 out of 20 years he's going on his birthday?
I guess he loads up the entry box on his birthday, but we're not really superstitious, but it's fallen on the right day, and it's been fun. It's something for people to talk about. I guess the next time the Derby rolls around, hopefully it can land on his birthday one day. We'll see.
When's your birthday, so that we know when you're out on your own?
The day after Christmas. I don't know if they're dark or what, but
Santa Anita.
That's right.
Santa opening day at Santa Anita every year.
There we go.
All right, unbelievable. And also you talk about family, and there's always a scene in stakes when the Mott team wins. There's so many familiar faces, whether it's Neil, longtime foreman and assistant, and Irma. There's there's all these faces and loyalists that have been working for the family and for the operation for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, we're extremely fortunate to have people who have been here since before I was even born. People that they're not blood related, but I still consider family. It's just a pleasure waking up every day and coming to work with people like that. It's more than a job. It's a passion and a pleasure. So it makes working and winning together so much more special. So, yeah.
All right, we'll wrap things up here because we're beyond time, but I always like to continue going if the conversation warrants it. It certainly did this morning with part of the Alabama winning team, Riley Mott. Again, congratulations yesterday, and it could be a big week, so good luck going forward.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to wrap things up for this edition of Loose on the Lead. Seth Merrill, Steve Bick, and here every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Any last words?
I want, for this week, I got a couple of quick announcements. My associate John Parada is going to be in signing books, and also with the cartoonist that does the illustrator that does the illustrations in his books, Jen Ferguson, and his book that is the written continuation of Luck.
Yeah, for folks who don't know, he was one of the consultants on.
Well, more than that, he was
the
lead script writer and script editor. And Parada in town with Jen Ferguson and Tom Durkin Tuesday morning at the museum at 9:30, and then Wednesday at Longfellow's as well. And I think Tuesday night actually out at Prime, out at Saratoga National. And the three of them will be signing the books. And Tom Durkin is doing the voiceover for not Out of Luck, but the other most recent John title, the.
So he's doing like the
novel.
Audio book version?
There's an audio book version with Tom Durkin doing the audio. Right. And Tom and Jen Ferguson and John Parada, Tuesday and Wednesday at the museum on Tuesday in the morning, then later out at Saratoga National, and then Wednesday at Longfellow's.
All right, let's wrap up this edition of Loose on the Lead. Again, thanks to Riley Mott, thanks to Sean Clancy, thanks to you for tuning in. Seth Merrill, Steve Bick, every morning during the meet. Every Sunday morning during the meet at 10 a.m. Enjoy the races this afternoon. We'll see you next week.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.